It's our pilot, Bad Elizabeth. And I remember when you came to me originally, you were like, there's so many Elizabeths out there that are objectively shitty.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's a coincidence or it just happens that people named Elizabeth sometimes go awry.
I mean, I think that I guess because it is a very popular name,
Oh,
right? That you
it's
said
like the 15th
yes.
most popular name in America.
So you could, yes, and so theoretically, and then there's also derivations of it, like
Sure.
Lizzie, Beth, Isabel, Betty, Betsy, Libby.
Right.
So there's that. But I mean, I think it's because it's such a common name. It's just, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about the various Elizabeths that are out there. I mean, and also I remember everyone loved that series Dirty John.
Oh, right.
And I like the very specificity of it. He's Dirty John. He's a bad man. He's a dirty man.
But to distinguish our show from shows like Dirty John and Scamanda,
yes,
which I haven't seen, but it's a good name of a show.
But it's based on an Amanda, one specific person.
So I think the Dirty John, the whole series is about
based
Dirty John.
So ours is just a series about a series of bad Elizabeths.
So each episode will be a different bad Elizabeth.
Different bad Elizabeth, and what we consider the word bad and what it means and how we apply it.
Right. What's the name of, we were talking about that Supreme Court.
Oh, it was
Potter
Stewart.
So he was talking about obscenity. There was some case about a movie.
It was a Louis Malle film that had been released in France. I think it was called The Lovers, based on a book. And then it was released in an Ohio theater, and I think specifically about making a statement about censorship. So they released it, and they said it's obscene. I've never seen the movie.
And the Supreme Court justice is, this guy Stewart.
It's Potter Stewart.
Potter Stewart
yes.
was like, I can't define obscenity, but I know it when I see it.
I know it when I see it, and so this is not obscenity.
Quote.
Yes.
So Kathy and I, the idea of somebody being bad is sort of up for discussion, but, really we're the co-hosts of this podcast and Will is producing it. I think, and Amber, of course, and so I think all of us make that decision. We're just going to decide if it's bad, if the person is bad, and whether they're worthy of an episode on Bad Elizabeth. And if the listeners have a problem with that, I mean, I'm fine with them trashing us on Apple Podcasts saying that person you profiled is not bad.
Yeah. And I think I'm not going to be a contrarian for sake of being a contrarian, I think there's other things, there's ways to admire some behavior. Like I just remember as a teenager growing up, if we got away with something, I could hear my parents trying to, in the next room, thinking about a punishment, and my dad saying, well, you got to hand it to them. They were pretty clever about that.
Right.
So, I mean, you can respect some of the bad behavior, like, well, you got to admire someone. He'll take it that far and still get away with it.
Totally. And I think it's fair to say that murder will get you into that bad category. Possibly, most likely.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you have taken that. I mean, I guess we could break it down between murder and manslaughter and all that stuff, whatever it is. But and I know
thievery.
All about. Yes, but and thievery. But so that's basically it. And we're going to look at various Elizabeths or derivations of the name throughout history. Like down the road, we want to do something on Lizzie Borden. Everyone knows that story about her and the axe.
And I know you have a soft spot in your heart for Lizzie Borden.
I do. And so basically, we were going to sort of, and hopefully down the line, we'll have people who are famous Elizabeths as guests.
Yes, that would be great.
So, there's people reached out to like Elizabeth Warren.
Yep. Elizabeth Banks.
And Elizabeth Banks, who went to your alma mater, Penn.
She did go there.
And then Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love. She's a person that's had many lifetimes as an Elizabeth.
Yeah, so it's something to look forward to. Today, it's just the two of us.
It's the two of us today,
and
exactly.
Will might chime in.
And Will.
I might chime in.
As he should.
So Kathy, like Elizabeth, has many derivations. My name, Gideon,
you can't
not
go
so
anywhere
much.
with that.
People have called me G. They've called me Gid, but
and also like people will write to me and they'll and in an email and write Kath.
Okay.
With a C, which is like a Kath with a C is like, that's a slut.
It's like
that's not me.
Catheter, too.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, should we dive into our Elizabeth?
Our first Elizabeth, yes.
So you want to tee it up a little bit?
Yeah, we're going to start with this Elisabeth Finch.
And she spells it with an S, I believe.
She spells it with an S, Elisabeth with an S. She's Finch. She is a writer. She's a television writer. I believe she was born in Cherry Hill, New Jersey,
That's correct.
Which is across the river from where I grew up in Philadelphia.
Near Philly.
It's a nice little town.
They root for the Eagles.
Yes, they root for the Eagles, as they should. And so she grew up there and she started getting into, I'm not exactly sure how she got into, she was like an intern, through New York and Los Angeles, getting onto shows.
Right. And I know she went to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh.
Which is a great...
And she took creative writing there.
Yes, it's a great school and it's a great sort of place to meet other people in the industry. So she came out to L.A. and she started getting... I guess she started out in the Vampire Diaries.
Right.
Which was like the craze when... when all the what's that horrible Twilight series, all that stuff.
So it was like
real gothic, and then she got on to...
Was that like a CW show? I never watched it.
It was a CW show,
okay.
Yeah. When that was a network, it was like the Teenage Network,
right?
And then so she worked on the Vampire Diaries, and then she got onto True Blood, and I guess she was a writer's assistant, and then became a writer.
She got onto a bunch of vampire shows, a couple.
She knew about teenagers and vampires and sort of the whole goth mindset.
And the sexy vampire, that's kind of a thing, right?
Exactly.
Why are vampires sexy?
I think...
Do you find them sexy?
I thought Georgia Hamilton at Love at First Bite was incredibly sexy, but I was probably 4 or 5.
That's dating us a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'd love to date me.
Do?
Yeah.
Right.
They're nocturnal.
Exactly.
That's true. There you go.
I'd say over half the sex
they
happens
bite you
at
in the neck.
Yeah, they wear capes.
Yeah, and I think they're caped, and I think they're also and it's a very sort of sensual act. It's to suck someone on the neck, and there's something dangerous about it.
Like a hickey, basically.
Yeah, and they don't have like flesh falling off their face like a zombie.
Right.
So yeah, there's something sexy about them. They're usually men, and they're mysterious.
So there's a couple of articles in Vanity Fair. That's like one of our sources.
Yes.
And they kind of talked about Elisabeth Finch. And one of the things that they mention in the article is that at one of these shows, maybe True Blood, because it was like HBO, I believe it was a bigger show with Alan Ball, the guy that did 6 Feet Under.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think writers were getting fired and it was super stressful. And it was around that time that Elisabeth Finch wrote an article for Elle magazine.
Yes.
And it was all about her living with cancer.
So yeah, she had a series of sort of physical setbacks, unfortunate ones, and she had this rare form of cancer, and she wrote about this.
According to the article.
And she wrote about it for Elle magazine and Self magazine, like when women's magazines were actually around and important,
Like the paper version.
The paper version that people looked forward to getting in the mail. And she wrote some stuff about her experience of writing and producing for, I believe, True Blood. And she said, here's a quotation from her: "I watched the producers cut under the fog of Demerol. Punched up dialogue about vampire werewolf hybrids with a shunt in my spine. Yes, I was down 17 pounds, bald, vomiting relentlessly, but I was still living alone, still stubborn as hell." And so that was her experience. And one thing,
and she claimed in that article to have chondrosarcoma, which was like a cancer that's on your spine.
It's sort of like it's on your spine, but it's blood related, but it's very deadly because it's very resistant to chemotherapy. So it's hard to get rid of it. So this is what she's written about, and so her cancer becomes storylines, and she's sort of
in Grey's Anatomy, right?
She becomes a writer for Grey's Anatomy, and so they use this.
That Elle article kind of catapulted her.
Because the writing alone sounds like a voiceover from a Grey's Anatomy character.
Totally.
Right?
And also you figure if you're working for a medicine, a show about hospitals, you want people
stories
that know this like lingo.
So she's got the lingo down, plus she's survived it, and she's a writer for a salacious TV show, which is perfect. And this is a similar demographic.
Right.
So she gets hired. And so the problem is this is all not true.
Right. It's complete bullshit.
So she's going on to, so she ends up becoming a writer and so So basically, we're using. There was also a series on Peacock Network. It was based on, I guess, Vanity Fair now has studios, which so they've been sort of optioning their own articles and doing, and they're quite good. So this one is called Anatomy of Lies. It's on Peacock, and it's a 3-part series based on the articles.
Right.
And they interview some people who have worked with her. So I mean, basically, it's an embarrassment of riches. And as we were saying, we were trying to break down what story would be first. We thought this would be the most interesting one because it's incredibly topical.
Well, she's alive.
And she's alive, and she continues to...
She could be listening to the show right now.
She could be listening. She could be listening.
And the cancer, that's one thing that they say in the article is that that's kind of her brand.
Cancer is her brand, yes. Well, suffering kind of becomes her brand because we learn a lot about her. So basically, the way that the series sort of starts and the article starts is that she does this episode of Grey's Anatomy with Debbie Allen, who plays one of the head surgeons, genius surgeon. She's a urologist.
And Debbie Allen did Fame,
She's from Fame. She's brilliant. She's an American icon. And her sister is Felicia Rashad of the Cosby family.
Sisters?
Yes, they're sisters. So anyway, so Debbie Allen plays this head doctor that gets this form of cancer, this rare form of cancer.
Chondrosarcoma.
Sarcoma, yeah.
And I watched that episode today. It might have been the first episode I ever watched
of Grey's Anatomy. Yeah,
and it was good.
It was good, but I know that with the build up of the dialogue in this, she's about to go under. She's got this.
Well, the first episode, she's just diagnosed.
She's just diagnosed.
And it's called "Does Anybody Have a Map" or something?
Something like that.
That's the name of the episode.
So basically, Elisabeth Finch as the writer is giving them the map to cancer.
Right.
Like, how do I handle this diagnosis?
Right.
What do I do? And so anyway, the episode that's the big, I guess, crescendo of this storyline is that she gets operated on by a fellow, very skilled doctor who they sort of butt heads, but he's going to save her life, God damn it. And he's going to remove this tumor or whatever it is that's in her spine. But she might be paraplegic and she might not operate again. So the stakes are high. And everyone, they were saying, like, creating this episode, watching it, everyone's crying because it's so emotional. And Elisabeth herself is in scrubs, and they were like, "We got to put you in this episode."
On the episode,
she's on the episode, and I guess TV Guide or Entertainment Weekly, whatever, when they were publishing photos for like this week on
marketing.
For the marketing, she's in it. She's like the first in scrubs, like proudly wheeling Debbie Allen's character into the emergency room. So it's highly like emotional.
Right.
And based on her personal story. It's her story.
She's basically writing an autobiography.
Exactly.
And Debbie Allen, a so-called autobiography.
Yes.
But it's all lies.
It's all lies.
And we should probably go into like what's going on in the writer's room.
Yes.
And I think they talk about everybody's talking over each other in the writer room normally, but because Elisabeth Finch kind of has this sad story,
yes,
she becomes the focus of attention. And everybody gives her the floor, and nobody would normally hog the limelight like that. But because she has claimed she has cancer, and she has a shaved head, and like faked having a shunt from chemo,
yes,
everybody will give her space to talk.
Well, the thing, so she's working on Grey's Anatomy, having gone through, and she drops little bombs here and there. Like at one point, she said she had a kidney operation. She had a kidney transplant, but she claims was donated to her by Anna Paquin, who is on True Blood.
And that was a result of the cancer.
And that was a result of the cancer.
The fake cancer.
Yes, and the fake cancer, she also had... She discovered the fake cancer, too, when she had knee surgery, which is also peculiar.
Knee replacement?
Knee replacement, which is curious because she's quite young at this point, having knee replacement surgery. So she has all these things that lead to the perfect storm of everything that goes wrong with her. And everyone kind of, and when she was working at Grey's Anatomy, she did have a shaved head.
She shaved her head.
She shaved her head, and she would leave. She went in every day because she's a fighter, but she would leave, down 17 pounds, and she would go retch in the bathroom, and people would hear her.
And they'd say, "Go home."
And and she's like, "No." So she fought through it. So everyone just like, no one knew, maybe she should take it because then that you're talking down to her because she's a fighter,
Right.
So there's all that type of stuff that went on. Throughout that, and the thing that was also curious as she sort of extended her group of people, she was like the cancer guru. more and more things happened to her that she's sort of like, she was almost like the Forrest Gump of misfortune, as I was saying.
Not that she's intellectually, that she has like an intellectual.
No.
You mean just that she's like all
like
over
Zelig,
the place?
like Zelig.
Yeah,
like the Woody
Maybe
Allen, you know, like she sat next to a fat man and became a fat man herself. Like
Right.
she basically, there was another thing where there's a curious thing too. I'm not quite sure because she grew up with her brothers. She grew up with a brother and parents.
Yeah.
And there's been sort of different storylines of her parents all being dead. There's different storylines of her brother was abusive to her.
Well, she claimed that.
She claimed that.
Are her parents alive?
Her parents are alive.
I think we should talk a little bit about just how I mean, if there's anything admirable about Elisabeth Finch, is she really committed to lying.
Yeah.
And
if you're good at it.
I was never very committed to lying. Like when my wife Jill and I we met on Match.com in the early days of like online dating.
Almost like the nerve years.
It was those
Everyone
years,
did,
exactly. But we didn't want to tell everybody that we met on Match.com. So our close friends, we said we met on Match.com. And then the people that were not close friends, we said we met at a bar.
Which I was one of your close friends, and I said,
did I tell you?
Yes, and
Okay.
I said I'd rather say Match.com than meeting at a bar.
That's true, but it was there was a stigma back in the.
No,
it was a long time ago, and
But
then
you straddled the line.
Well,
you didn't
we didn't
commit because now you have to keep track of those two different stories.
That was the problem. That's why I was bad at it, and Elisabeth Finch was better at it because I lost track of who I told what.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I would let it slip that I met on Match.com to someone that wasn't as good as a friend, Kathy.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, I thought you met at a bar. So I sucked at. Are you a good liar, Kath?
I remember once I went to, I was invited to every birthday party as a kid. You know, so I remember going to this one party. It was at a pizza place, and I was like the only girl, invited. So I was there at a birthday party, and I was so excited for the cake to come around because they were cutting it, but they were taking so long, and all I could think about was that cake. So I was like, turn around and face the wall so you don't think about the cake, don't lose your shit. And I was like 6 or 7 or whatever. So I suddenly turn around, and the cake is in front of me, and everyone's halfway through, and I had been so distracted by focusing on the wall, I turned around, and his mother's like, why aren't you in the cake? You don't like the cake? You don't like it? You don't like it? And I said, yeah, I don't care for it because I was so embarrassed. And then they took the cake away from me. But it was like I committed to it, that lie that I still think about all the time. But I wanted to save face.
And she believed you.
And she believed me.
Have you invented if the cake was good or not or anything like that?
I'm sure it was delicious. I'm sure it was white icing. It was like a pancake. Of course it was delicious. There's no such thing as bad cake.
I once went to a friend's house and they served lima beans and I was too ashamed to say I didn't like them and I threw up all over their floor. So
and were you invited back?
And I did lie that time, and I wasn't good at it. I shouldn't have lied. I was invited back.
But no, I think with Elisabeth Finch, she would hear you. You could tell a story. Like, for example, we met on Match.com, but I said we met at a bar. You would be the next day. That would be a plot in the writer's room. And you'd be like, I just told her that story last night.
But I'm not evoking any pity in that story.
No, you're not at all.
So part of what was bad about what Elisabeth did really was kind of putting people through the ringer, essentially, if we're going to be metaphorical about it. Like these people went out and helped her and her parent, and talking about how committed she was, she went to Minnesota, right, to go to the Mayo Clinic with not having cancer.
Yes, she went to the Mayo Clinic, and she was dating a woman at the time, and the woman wanted to be very supportive, and she said, I don't want you to be part of my cancer story. Right. Wouldn't let her in. I don't know how one fakes getting an appointment at the Mayo Clinic.
I think you just tell people you have an appointment.
And then you just walk through the doors?
And then you walk through the doors. But that's crazy to book a plane ticket.
Oh,
and she rented an apartment in Minnesota from a friend too.
Yes.
So she went through all this just to keep
to be close to Mayo Clinic, so she'd be able to go to these quote unquote.
And she would her Instagram would have a photo of the exterior of Mayo, so everybody knew.
There's 2 stories about her brother. One was that he committed suicide, but he didn't succeed, so she had to go off and finish it for him. Pull the plug. And the second one was that he committed suicide, but her brother was working as a doctor somewhere in Florida. So. So these are other stories that she would plant that she had to maintain,
Man.
And a lot of this ended up in storylines of Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
She ended up rising through the ranks.
So yeah, exactly. She ended up being like the head writer, and everyone
co-EP, a co-executive producer,
and everyone loved her. And then there was at one point there was the shooting at a synagogue
the Tree of Life.
The Tree of Life in Cleveland, in Pittsburgh. And it was a terrible shooting at a synagogue, Tree of Life synagogue. And so she said, and this is while she was working at Grey's Anatomy, imagine making a very healthy salary. She's like, I've got to go there. One of my friends was in the massacre. And
because she went to Carnegie Mellon. So that was...
So there was a Pittsburgh thing. Could have been
real
true.
Thing,
but she said she flew there to help clean up the carnage through Jewish faith.
Well, I don't even think she was Jewish.
No, and
I don't think so.
And she said she also was going that because she was a friend of one of the deceased, that the FBI had given her special permission to be in there, which is, I don't know how one gets that.
Is this like a like one of those things where it's like, to observe somebody's passing properly, you have to do this, and this.
Exactly.
Yes, it's like a death rite.
Yeah.
She basically knew somehow that Jews need to be buried within 24 hours.
That's what I'm trying to...
So I think, and it's so horrible because this is like what makes her worse than just like a typical liar, because this is truly a tragedy.
Yeah, it's awful.
And she basically exploited it and said, I have to clean the guts of my friend off the floor to get that person in the ground. Yeah, she used words like,
I have to clean up the carnage. And as a result of this trauma, she decides to go away to someplace, I believe in Arizona, a clinic.
Now, just before we get to the clinic, I had a question. So, I mean, these kind of out there lies, they're almost too crazy to make up.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, do you think that was a reason why people believed it? That it just...
The bigger the lie, the more people will believe it.
Exactly. Like, why would she even make up this?
I think we were talking about this before. Like, when people are very specific about why they're late.
Yeah.
I don't care. You're just late. Just let me know if you're going to be late. But then when they give these specifics, I'm like, wow, you're spending a lot of time telling me why you're late. Just say, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. I'm fine with that.
But she was very good at these.
She was very specific.
She went on a plane, or she claimed she did on social media. She yelled at Delta Airlines for losing her bag.
Oh, that's right.
That they made her check because it had cancer medication.
Wow.
In the bag. So it's like, wow. I mean, she really is
She really believed in... Well, it's the same, like I remember my car got stolen in Brooklyn. It was like a Jeep. And that was a crazy story, but I remember talking to the cops there, and they said, we have these kids. And I felt terrible because the kids that stole the Jeep, it was a piece of crap car, like 15, and it was going to ruin their lives from doing it. But he said that, they would steal these cars, and then they'd get them back, and they'd be, modified them with, like, lights and all this stuff. And they're like, but it's my car. And they're like, but you stole it. It's not your car. Funny. So I think with Elisabeth Finch, she's like, but it's my story.
Yeah.
So she just lived that life. Like, so as a result of going to clean up her friend's remains at the synagogue, she said, I'm going to take some time off and deal with my trauma, still getting paid by Grey's Anatomy because she's their queen.
And they gave her a lot of, like, space
lots
to take
of
time
leeway.
off.
Lots of leeway.
And apparently senior writers, like, helped her finish scripts when she had to run off.
Exactly, when she had to run off. So she did, a lot of people, like, had her back for her because, of course, they're going to have her back. She's dying. She's fighting this cancer and showing up every day and has had such a tumultuous life. So she goes to this clinic, like, I guess in Scottsdale. And I imagine it's like one of those
in Arizona.
In Arizona, yeah. And I imagine it's like kind of like Silver Hill in Connecticut or Passages in Malibu. It's like Adirondack chairs on a hill, and either
you can get some networking done.
Get some networking done. And it's probably
it's
90.
Pretty,
it's beautiful, and it's probably like $90,000 a week to be there. But she meets this woman who's there.
Jen
Byer, I think her name is.
Correct.
And she is the mother of 5, and she's escaping a very abusive domestic situation. Her husband was very abusive, and so she's basically hiding from him. But I believe she's there for trauma.
And Jen she's trying to hold on to her kids.
She
dissociated at one point and walked away from her kids in a car, and then Children's Services.
Yeah, they came in so she's just basically trying to get her mind back, and her, from what she describes it, and I believe it's true. This is Jen. Her husband was awful and abusive and frightening, and the children really seem to, from what we get to know of her in the documentary and in the article, she's really a loving woman and a caring mother.
Jen is,
And her
yeah.
kids are good kids and they love their mother. And so anyway, she was there recovering and they met. And of course, they started a relationship
And
fell in love.
Elisabeth went by the name Jo.
Yes, because which is also a character on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
That she became like the embodiment. That's her next character. And Jo was abused by the character of Jo on Grey's
On Grey's
Anatomy, and
Anatomy.
the moniker that Elizabeth used when she was in this Arizona retreat, and she met this Jennifer woman. She stole Jennifer's storyline and created a storyline for the Jo character on Grey's Anatomy, which is about domestic abuse.
And she also, the abuse that Jen was getting from her brother, from her husband,
yes.
I think Elisabeth created the storyline for her own fake character.
Fake characters,
that
yes.
her brother
was
had abused her. So it was weird. It was kind of like that Zelig thing where she's like mimicking and taking other people's traumas. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, it is impressive that she's not only writing for Grey's Anatomy, but she's writing her own storyline.
Exactly.
That is kind of, we have to hand it
that's
to
what
her.
I am impressed by that. And she kind of like, she really kept on top of her storylines, you know?
Yeah.
And the other thing that we were talking about, it was just sort of the industry we're in, we both work in television and film.
We didn't talk about that.
And then we haven't talked about that, but it does attract some kooky characters.
You meet people from time to time that are just kind of like they have trouble telling the truth, or they're a little detached from reality. And I guess some people are doing it for a reason, like you're being conned, but some people just have a trouble.
A lot of it, I think, is an attention-getting thing, you know?
But some people, I feel like, maybe are more innocent, that they just can't tell the truth. They just have a problem, no?
I think there's something that I think I think there's a way you can control it.
I mean, I actually, in preparation for this episode, I listened to an episode of Radiolab, which I really like. And there was an episode in 2010, which was about lying. And there have been many studies about liars and pathological or compulsive liars. And you know how there's brain material that's like gray matter. It's called gray matter.
Yes.
That's where I think thoughts are formed. And then in the prefrontal lobe or cortex. And then apparently liars have more white matter, which is the connecting material between those gray matter. So I think they're very good at connecting stories. So they're actually really good at this, and they're kind of better at it than non-liars. And apparently the white matter that grows between the gray matter occurs between the age of 2 and 10. And 10 is apparently developmentally the time when you start telling lies. So part of me was like the whole tree of life lie thing. Like, I know this sounds weird, but I'm Jewish. I'm allowed to say it. That, like, because there are a lot of Jews working on TV shows sometimes, that, like, maybe she thought it would endear her to some of her colleagues because she had a friend who died in an anti-Semitic attack.
Yeah.
So, but who knows? I mean, she hasn't really gone on the record too much. When you go through, like, if you're a cancer survivor, you're going to bond with people who either are survivors or have found, everybody knows somebody who has cancer.
Of course. And the other thing, too, is, like, I have to say, like, and unfortunately, we were at an age where we're losing our parents.
Yeah.
Like, when my father died, I was working tangentially with someone, I was working on a new show. And she's like, I heard about your father. It was the most wonderful thing in the world. Because, of course, I want to talk to someone about it, So with cancer, too, we all, unfortunately, know someone who's been through it. And it's treacherous. It's awful.
Right. But if it's true, if you have something that is a sob story.
Yeah.
Is it okay to use that in a way to kind of like get people to endear you? Or is even that like a slippery slope in terms of...
It can be.
Like, I mean, I don't know if you mind me bringing this up, but when we worked at The Daily Show together, when we started, you had just had surgery, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, I remember you like didn't even tell people about it.
What was the surgery?
I had a craniotomy. I had I had a brain tumor on the side of my head.
Oh, man.
And I had been, the thing about when you have problems with your brain and you
Yeah.
live alone and you work all the time or whatever and you're thriving, I suppose, if your brain is not working, you don't know that, right?
Oh,
So
interesting.
there would be
Yeah.
things like, I would say like, oh, I lost words. Like who comes up with an expression like that?
Oh, wow.
Someone who loses words. Like I'd be talking to you and I couldn't remember the name
Yeah.
of the word for car. And I would look at you like, that
Wow.
happened.
Right, right.
You know, so I went through that, but it was also, I was just starting out at the Daily Show and they were trying me out.
Right. So
So-
was there an
wow.
aspect of like you were almost nervous?
I didn't want
bring in-
anyone to know because I didn't want to be
Right.
and people say, that's the other thing too, is people say the craziest things to you because no one knows what to say because you
Right.
never, but I remember
Were
someone
you
saying,
fully recovered at that point?
No,
Or,
I
like
was 10
cognitively, or
I should have, I
It
would
was
have.
a few days. I mean,
It was
really,
10 days after
oh my
I had brain
God.
surgery. But I had gone in, I'd had a grand mal seizure and seizure, and I was told you're going to have brain surgery in a month. And I remember people saying like to me, like, what are you going to do? Like your brain is your best part of you. Like what if you,
Yeah.
what if you
Oh
come
my
out
God.
differently? And
Yeah,
I was like,
people say the wrong
oh,
things.
they always do. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
thanks for reminding me.
So
That's great.
that's a
You're
downside of saying.
Yeah.
Well, I knew people who would like show the boss pictures of their kids
Yes.
because they felt like it would protect them from getting fired.
Uh,
And I always found I saw people do that, and I never wanted to do that.
Yeah.
I have a couple of kids, but it's like it just felt gross. But it's like some people don't have that filter.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the reason
But
I
you
never
could have gone
I
forward
know, but they
and
would've,
told
like,
people,
who
and
wants-
then they would have been like, "We can't," you know.
But at the same time, they didn't. They would be like, "You got us a flawed one," you know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
great, now we can't fire her.
well, and you're on a in your case, you were on a trial basis.
Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want this job desperately. Everything that could go wrong. Like, I broke up with my boyfriend. He
Right.
dumped me.
When you had a brain.
When I was getting surgery.
We won't say his name either, but
Yes,
that's
yes.
pretty shitty.
Yeah, he hasn't got all those diseases I've sent him. He hasn't seemed to gotten any of them yet. But
Right.
no, I mean, it was good to be distracted. I mean, I cried every night in my office after hours.
Ugh, I'm so sorry.
That's the time to
It's
do it.
fine. It was no, but I mean, I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't, and it ended up being fine, and I was glad. But now looking back at it, I should have sort of taken some time, like don't go back to
Right,
work.
Right.
But whatever.
That's a hard decision to do when you're
Yeah.
a freelancer.
Yeah, but it was good. It was good that I was around people, and I just would wear my hair. But I do remember, like Rob Corddry saying, like, "Yeah, I remember once you turned it because it was like a big
You could see it,
Frankenstein. It's like a
actually.
big
I
Frankenstein.
know, through your hair.
Yeah, like through my head, and there's a metal plate in the thing. And it's funny because when I
He
do go,
realized that he saw it.
he's like, I was
boy.
wondering. And Stephen Colbert was like, yeah, I
Oh,
saw
boy.
that too.
Ugh,
But
so
anyway,
hard.
but anyway, but
Your Terminator skull.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, Kathy and I, we've known each other forever, right?
it's going on like 30 years, I think.
Yeah, we worked together. Michael Moore, the muckraker.
The
They
muckraker,
use
Michael
that word,
Moore.
the political kind of stuntster.
Yeah, the stunster. He's the
You
original
were his
prankster.
assistant.
I was his assistant, and you were an associate producer, right?
Yeah, and then I became kind of
A
later
producer,
a
yes.
producer and a researcher. But I also like dressed up like a chicken and got
You were a
I got
mascot.
arrested at Disney World.
Yes, and you were banned
And I was banned from all Disney theme parks.
for a long time. And no, I was Michael's assistant. And he was also finishing Canadian Bacon, which was
That
his,
was John Candy's last movie.
Yes, and my first day on the job, they were doing reshoots for Canadian Bacon, and it was with Propaganda Films, which then grew to be huge, and they were based in Britain, and everyone wanted Michael Moore's first fiction feature. Why wouldn't you? He's a genius. But just because you watch a lot of movies doesn't mean you can write and direct them. But anyway, that said, he would be the first to say that because anyway.
hard.
But anyway, my first day there, I had to find we're doing reshoots with John Candy's character jumping off a mountain, but he'd already died, so I had to go
Oh my
to
God.
a wig shop down on 14th Street
Oh
and
my
find a
God.
John Candy wig for someone
Wow.
to wear.
So, and then we also, Kathy and I, as you know, we worked at the Daily Show together.
We worked at the
with
Daily
Jon
Show.
Stewart, the
Yes,
first
but we
time.
also worked on lots of crazy little things in
have.
between, like prank shows and stuff like that.
And you were.
And you got
were-
me on Ollie G.
we
You were
were-
the one that
I
referred.
was? How did I do that?
I don't know why you did that for me.
I don't
You should have
think
had
I
that
did
job.
that.
I think you referred me. They needed an AP or something because
Oh,
I had been
wow.
working
Oh,
in
my God.
news, and you got me the Ollie G job.
I had no idea. I feel good about that.
A big theme in this episode will be lying or being flexible with the truth. And literally every show you just guys mentioned
That's true.
has to, as a producer, or you need to bend the truth
There's
to do your job for all of those
subterfuge,
shows.
You know that word?
Daily Show, Ali G.
I also
Michael
worked at
Moore.
Fox News.
Oh, well, there you go.
I do think the TV aspect is probably interesting to both of us, and we've both had experiences where we've had jobs. We might have mentioned earlier that that required us to kind of pull the wool over people's eyes. I wouldn't call it like I think lying could really get you sued, so we would have to tightrope walk.
I think the TV area or sort of our industry anyway brings out like broken-winged people and creative people and stuff, all kinds of people, right? And so the thing that got to me was that this was happening during the pandemic. This is happening during social media, and the reason why she started to get caught is that the woman she married.
The woman we talked about, we didn't say she married her. This Jen,
they did get married.
I know we didn't say it.
Yes. Her wife, Jen Blinn, I think it was, or Bly. This is awful.
Byer. Okay, sorry. So so this woman she met at the recovery center, Jen Byer.
Yes.
They kind of fell in love.
They fell in love and they became a family.
They married, actually.
They married, and then Elisabeth Finch came and lived with her and her family and gave them a great life.
Kids.
She has 5, and Jen did, and she became close with her children, and she made a really nice life for all of them and inspired them.
And to be fair to Elisabeth, I mean, she did some nice things.
No, she did very nice.
She flew. They went to Hawaii together.
They went to Hawaii. The one of her sons was exploring ballet, and so she financed. She paid for his classes,
and she also she brought Jen to Anna Paquin's house.
Yes, in Ojai.
And she also stood up to this abusive husband. She really told him off at some point. So there were some redeeming qualities.
Yes, no, she was. I think what she was
bad, but
she was.
She has some good qualities.
She was very Zelig like that. She came in and she absorbed your world and your life, and she was incredibly empathetic and lovely. But the thing that was interesting to me is that she could get away with all of this because she was at when she and her wife started separating, Jennifer and Elisabeth, because there was yet another tragedy or something going on. Jennifer started to look into her past, and she said she found
on Facebook
that the night of the slaughter at the synagogue in Pittsburgh, she was at the Abbey in WeHo drinking blue drinks with her friends.
And even the next day. So she wasn't go anywhere near.
At that time, she was posting. And also when she had her cancer.
And WeHo's West Hollywood.
Yeah, WeHo. Exactly. And the Abbey is the center of West Hollywood.
Right, okay. I'm from
If you want a
Brooklyn,
Sunday
so
fun day, go to the Abbey. But and the other thing too is that she was posting pictures of herself when she was going through chemotherapy, but she was wearing the scarves, but she had full-on eyelashes and eyebrows, which apparently everyone says those are the first to go when you go through cancer treatment.
And Jen was technically a nurse, I think.
She also was a nurse, and she said this is the weird thing too. Jen was a nurse, so they interviewed in the series Anatomy of Lies. They interviewed one of the male writers, and he goes, she could have had a Lego taped to her clavicle.
She pretended
it was like a cancer, a portal,
for chemotherapy.
Exactly.
And in her writing meetings, they saw that there was something there. But I think Jen also, because they were married and were, intimate, she didn't see a scar.
Yeah.
And as a nurse, she knew that you would have a scar.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not like something that they do an incision and then stitch you up. That's an open thing.
It's an open wound to be used again. It's like having a gas tank.
Hopefully none of us will have to
Gideon, hopefully.
Yes.
Hopefully.
And so I think Jen kind of went nuts, understandably, and made Elisabeth confess everything.
I'm just going to wait until my son has learned ballet a little better.
Right.
And then I'm going to...
Exactly.
Just until he gets into the toe shoes.
Well, I do think that the fact that she wanted to stay with her, she didn't leave her immediately. She was like, I will stay with her if she confesses everything.
Oh, that was the condition.
I believe she didn't leave immediately, which to me is a little crazy. So maybe she was benefiting.
I mean, we do have to say, well, she did, because Elisabeth Finch came with all this access. We'll go up to my friend Anna Paquin has a house in Ojai. Yeah. We can go there and relax and get away from everything. She helped finance education for her children. Her children, globbed onto her. They loved her.
Yeah,
and she was a great listener. I think that's the other thing too, is that people were duped by her, but partly heartbroken because they relied on her.
Definitely.
And enjoyed her as a to someone to be like an agony aunt, so to speak.
I think also once things started getting ugly between Jen and Elisabeth, I think Elisabeth did send a text kind of saying, "You stole my kids away from me."
Yes.
So there was also a fear aspect that Elisabeth, with her powerful money in Hollywood, would like take the kids away somehow. So, and that maybe was a real fear.
I think it was a real feeling. Also, she didn't have great track records. I mean, her first husband, she had 5 children with. You don't have just 5 children anyway.
And the first husband killed himself.
And he killed himself, yes.
So she had been through so much with the first
marriage.
Well,
he actually killed himself while she was seeing Elisabeth.
Right.
So he killed himself after they were separated.
And Elisabeth found out at the offices of Grey's Anatomy.
Yes.
Was that a plot line? That seems like a
I think there were. She used a lot of that stuff. And then her brother, the whole accusation we talked about that her brother abused her.
Yeah, that was
And she said her brother killed himself too. You mentioned.
Yes. The other thing too.
But he didn't.
He didn't.
He's still alive.
Yes.
What I picture is, like when you see like the lair of the person, or like, when you see like the apartment of the person that's like trying to track down the serial killer, and they have all the like index cards and photos and the strings and stuff like.
Yeah,
I almost picture Elisabeth Finch having her own version of that to keep track of her own stuff.
That's interesting. Like, absolutely.
Like, how do you keep track of all this?
Well,
stuff?
No, that's what I say. You need like a flow chart to figure it all out. And
you need a Bible if we're talking like Hollywood.
Yeah,
there's always a Bible. What's the storyline? Yeah, and I think I think it started getting tough for Elisabeth Finch when these worlds were colliding.
Yes. I think it was. I mean, I think that's
when it's
there
getting
was a
uncomfortable.
scene where like Debbie Allen and Jen Byer and Finch were all in the same car together, and I can't imagine that Finch wasn't really tense.
Oh wow!
That like
real life and oh wow!
Like she won some award.
Yeah, she did. I mean, here I'm looking at some of the notes about her cancer, specifically her cancer trajectory. Is that people would say they could hear her retching from the bathrooms at work, but refused to go home. And because she said, I got to figure out that third act. So she's the hero. Right. And then she did do 3 trials at the Mayo Clinic, but always went by herself because she didn't want anyone
so-called trials.
Yeah, so-called trials. She couldn't be connected to her cancer memory. She said she wore that scarf and a bald head and a bandage over her chemo report because she wore her cancer like her heart on a sleeve.
Right.
Like that was her moniker. Like that was what she was known for. And she also became the cancer ambassador. But the thing that she also did is every male doctor she wrote was either useless or a dick.
Right.
What is a cancer ambassador?
Meaning like if they're going to have a cancer line on the story or someone comes in with that. Tell us what chemo feels after 3 weeks.
But that's right. Like it wasn't just that she was sick. There was like she went through injustice also.
Also like, sexism, racism, everything.
All those things.
Exactly.
And I think the big red flag was that she called herself Finchy.
Finchy, yes.
Oh boy.
That's when you call yourself, other people can call you by a nickname, but you can't call yourself.
And also when I think of Atticus Finch of To Kill a Mockingbird, this like admirable Gregory Peck like Hollywood character, but Harper Lee apparently didn't write that book either, so who knows?
Oh, interesting.
That's like the
rumor.
I've heard it the other way too. Are you talking about Truman Capote?
Yes. Well, Truman Capote, I know that he wrote some of his earlier stuff.
Yeah, I've heard it both ways. It's like the Peter Bogdanovich did his best work when he was friends with Orson Welles, that kind of thing.
Yeah, or Robert Benchley and Dorothy Parker.
Right, yeah.
But she did make all the male doctors idiots. She really liked to write that. Which was interesting.
So if we're to look at her transgressions, and we're thinking about the word bad, what do you think applies? Like what's slam dunk bad? What's gray area bad? And what's like, I kind of admire that. That's being resourceful.
I mean, she's clearly a very good writer, and that is obvious in her lies. I mean, she's super creative, so. You have to hand it to her there. I think if she only lied to a few people, like her family, or even just the staff, that would be one thing. But she really, her lies kind of ended up as episodes and went out to millions of people.
And she was also active, on social media and blogs and stuff like that.
She wrote, eight publications in total about her cancer.
About her cancer.
So
and that's
all those people reading, if you have cancer, and you're reading it and she's giving you hope or something. I mean, that's pretty.
You came in with a bald scarf and I brought you tea because I felt bad.
Yeah.
And you had that portal and I just heard you retching and I felt awful.
Do you think not shaving the eyebrows being, do you think that was, was it an oversight or vanity?
I think it's definitely vanity. No one looks good without.
I would have shaved.
But did she know? But do you think she knew that? Oh, if you do chemo, you don't have your.
She's so smart. I have to think she knew that.
Well, the other thing too is
I don't know.
No one looks good, but then she could have shaved them off and then drawn them on, which even more highlighted the fact that she had fake eyebrows.
But I wonder if every single person.
I don't know. Like when my father went through chemo, he never lost his hair.
I mean, she might have known that, and also,
but it's weird not to lose your eyebrows.
Even the chondrosarcoma, which was a type of cancer, apparently it affected older people. So even that. People could have been like seen red flags that she was young and had it.
Yeah.
And so she did make a few mistakes for sure.
But the not responsive to chemo thing was maybe the most appealing aspect of that particular fake diagnosis.
Because you could say, well, sometimes it responds and sometimes it doesn't.
It sounds dramatic. And I know in that episode where Debbie Allen's character gets diagnosed, the doctor's like, chondro is a beast. It's like it's so like over the top, it's perfect for a drama.
Godzilla versus chondro.
Right. And I guess, what we're saying, I mean, in a weird way, all TV reality, even non-reality shows are kind of like, we are kind of lying to people.
Well, of course, why else would anyone engage? Because, it's interesting stuff. And I mean,
do you think like a hospital show owes it to have some semblance of realness to it?
Well, I mean, I think that we kind of noticed this too. Like when we were working at the Daily Show, like I would work on a lot of and it was the rise of like CSI and all that type of stuff. It was really hard to get juries because everyone was like, there's probably semen on that. And they're like, It actually doesn't work that way, but they've already been turned in their head. No, we can solve this in 45 minutes with plus commercials. So I think that...
and most courtrooms are really boring.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Never like a courtroom
so
drama.
you need all that stuff. But the fact that she went to such great depths to like it's the Forrest Gump / Zelig like character that fascinates me. I mean, like that character Catch Me If You Can is based on a real character.
Bagnali.
But that was kind of fun. Like I'm going to pretend I'm a pilot and fly a plane. Playing this one, I was like, I'm playing on your heartstrings, mimicking a very horrible process and an unfair. It's cancer's the meanest thing in the world.
Well, also, and they mentioned it on the Radiolab episode, they had an expert on lying.
Yeah,
I think when people do like con you, it's not only that you don't believe that person from now on, it kind of like shatters your belief in like anything. So you're
it's a big rug pull.
You're falling and it's fucked up. I don't know if we can curse.
Oh,
but it's fucked up. It's like you're toying with people's like trust.
Well, it's really shocking when you meet someone that, for number one, like if you meet someone that you realize like, oh, he's not very bright. Like it never occurred to you and you've known them for 3 years. Like, well, he's just not bright. And I mistook this like for some sort of profundity, but he's not. He just is not a deep thinker.
That's interesting.
Or like, I've worked with people who I put my trust in and then I found out like they were ripping me off or gaslighting. And I'm like, I didn't know people came mean. But they do.
So just, let's talk about how this kind of, she becomes
undone. So Jen Meyer, her wife and the mother of the 5 children that Elisabeth has sort of commandeered, starts looking into Elisabeth's past. And the thing that's so shocking in this age of social media, you could go back 5 years and you could see that she was not at this Tree of Life synagogue. She was going through chemo, but she still had her eyebrows.
Didn't have a scar.
And didn't have a scar, didn't have all these things. Like, it's kind of like the usual suspects when they're looking at the bulletin board. They're like, oh, that's what Kaiser Sensei is?
Exactly. So, and Jen is like, her life is falling apart.
Her life is falling apart, and she's looking at all these plot lines that come in. There was another thing that one of the writers said that she was the product of rape. That, of course, became Joe's storyline. Elisabeth, another character that Elisabeth wrote about was Joe was the product of rape, So, and that was some other writer going like, yeah, I remember telling her that story, and suddenly it's a storyline, So it was kind of very much like a Usual Suspects, like, oh, yeah, that makes sense now. That makes sense now. So it started to unravel. And Jen was getting like, feeling threatened that her children would be taken away because Elisabeth could turn on her because she had the whole Shondaland community behind her, the world behind her, tons of money, all of that stuff, all this access. So she started looking into her, and so she actually ended up writing an email to Shonda Rhimes and the Shondaland, complex.
Who wrote the email?
Jen Blyer, her wife. Byer. Same thing.
It's okay. So Jen Byer wrote this
email. Like, you know that she's a con artist and she's been conning you for years. She doesn't have cancer. She's done this to me. She's dangerous.
She worked on like 150 episodes and like wrote 12 of them.
And as far as I can tell, Debbie Allen directs a lot of them and she's still on the show.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is her writing from Elle, that article that I read from is exactly the narration of Meredith Grey at the beginning of every episode. Like, sometimes things creep up on top of you and you never ever expect it. I had that catheter in me and I'd be damned if I was going home. That type of shit.
Yeah.
So it's perfect for that voice.
It's like a fingerprint of
she got
how
the voice
she writes,
exactly. Yeah. It's like writing like a cookie cutter Harlequin romance.
Yeah.
We know we need a wind machine, at some point, hair blowing and that type of shit. So
I love the fact that is it Jen?
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that Jen is the person that revealed it. I love the fact that she
feels right
because she earned the right.
She earned her place. She was the worst.
Through a lot.
She suffered. I mean, she obviously gained a lot. Like, she got to go on these vacations and stuff like that, and got to feel normal for a little bit. But even further, betrayed because she already went through this with her husband and opened up to this woman about all this stuff, and this woman just took the parts that were useful to her. And also got to be a fake mother for a while and really loved that.
Well, and then you have disappointed kids that it's like, our fake mom is no longer there.
Jen made her confess to the kids
in person.
And confess to her own parents on FaceTime or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think Jen ultimately got a phone call from Disney, the HR, and then they were going to investigate. But I guess Elisabeth resigned before they didn't even do the investigation, which maybe they should have done.
Wow.
And that was kind of
then I think she kind of left. But it's so interesting to me because it reminds me of James Fry, A Million Little Pieces.
Right.
Who wrote that sort of, a fake memoir about
Oprah
drug addiction. And he was picked by Oprah's book club. And he was on there and she hosted him. And people started doing the math. Like, he was talking about he got a wisdom tooth extracted and he couldn't go under any sort of, like, some Esquire article, like, journalist was like, let me investigate some of this stuff. So he was like, Oprah's book club, they were making a movie. Suddenly, it's all lies.
Yeah.
And then he comes back on and gets even more publicity saying, yeah, it was all lies, I made it up and y'all bought it. So I kind of look at
money.
And he made a lot of money, which is what Elisabeth Finch did too. And I guess fast forward, we just realized that in light of the Palisades fires and the Altadena fires, she has a Venmo account. Elisabeth Finch has a Venmo account out saying, like, if you could donate to the fire. And I'm sure she lives in one of those neighborhoods because that Grey's Anatomy money is nice money.
It seems like Palisades money.
Palisades money. I think it's Palisades money. And so she said, I have a Venmo account that's directly to me, so you don't have to worry about fees and all that stuff. I'll take it directly to the fires.
That would be why, like, you're like, why isn't this a GoFundMe? Like, this is such an obvious
she's appealing to, I think her appeal had something to do with pets that needed being rescued, which is another thing to me. Like, when people are like, we're going to come back and get our pets. Like, no, if you're evacuating a fire, you're taking your pets with you. There's no choice in coming back to get your pets. So she was appealing to, like, the lost pets thing.
Yeah.
And
this is years after, she quit
Grey's Anatomy. But this is just fast. And it wasn't that long ago.
We're recording this around when these fires are happening.
But she was on Grey's Anatomy as late as, like, 2021, I think. Yeah. So it's not that long ago. Yeah, but I mean, I feel like we've lost a lot of time with the pandemic anyway. But,
true. But did so is this thing appealing for money for the wildfires? Was it real?
It's appealing for the wildfires.
Was it another bogus lie?
I believe it is real. This is what you sent me. I believe it is real. And her reaction was, hey, if people want to give it to me, this is where I'm going to help people who are other victims of the fires. And maybe she's trying to make amends, but I kind of do like her moxie in either direction. Sure. If it's legitimate, like, I am going to help the people and I'm going to use my platform.
Well, Michael Milken, that guy, he gives so much to, like, cancer research now. He actually had cancer.
Exactly.
But he had gotten arrested on insider trading.
That
guy, and now he's one of the biggest philanthropists.
Of course, well, that always happens. But then you see, like, the people like, the Chicago 8, half those ended up being, like, venture capitalists. All that, you know what I mean? They went to the dark side, what they would consider the dark side.
But it's really interesting because if you're just looking at it like, crime of opportunity or in Top Gun, what they would call a target-rich environment. It's like you have cancer. Everybody's had a connection to cancer. This wildfire was so big that, especially in this town, I mean, everybody has multiple connections to people affected by the fire. So if you're somebody looking for your next big score, and you're like, whoa, this is like jackpot
That's
time,
the way to go.
like as far as like, I can't think of, I mean, I can, but as far as like, not since, I don't know, Katrina, 9/11, I mean, it's like, we're a high level of concerned, sympathetic people have been activated because of this fire. So good time to ask for some money.
I was just watching with my family an old episode of The Office, and they're doing a fundraiser, and the charity is rabies. And I think it's funny because nobody really cares that, like, people wouldn't give to that. So Elisabeth Finch is like the opposite of rabies. It's like, let's find the thing that everybody knows about.
This is what I would say. I think she's a bad Elisabeth, but not bad as an evil Elisabeth. I think she's bad. She behaved badly, and she played with a lot of people's emotions, which I think that's bad. But she's not sinister evil as in like a Hitler.
Well, she didn't like exterminate.
She didn't exterminate a whole race of people.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, Hitler, you could look at him and say he was successful at what he did.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's all kinds of ways to spin everything, right? I think she was bad, but I think she was a desperately flawed person. Psychologically, there was something there that she needed the attention, and she did bad things.
Definitely.
So I think she's bad, but I do admire her moxie for getting away with it. And she has these superpowers that she could keep up. Like, she knew so much about cancer that maybe she should have been a doctor.
Maybe she will. She could go to med school.
She could become a doula like all my old agents have become.
If she wants to come on a future episode of our show,
I'd love to talk to her.
Talk about it. That would be interesting. So thank you all for listening. This has been really fun to do this at Jet Road Studios with Amber and Will Beckton. And thank you, Will, for chiming in.
Oh, yeah. No,
and keeping us on track. Yeah, I mean, I think we're figuring out what this is by figuring out what it's not. But I do think
building the plane on the runway.
Exactly. And I think the other thing too is I think it's what I wanted to say about this. It's called Bad Elisabeth specifically because it deals with bad Elisabeths. We're not straying from that.
No.
It's exactly what it sounds like. And if you think it's like going to be a Dirty John, and then you joined us because of that, but you like us, stay.
Yeah, we'll have another Elisabeth next episode. You'll never get sick of the Elisabeths we choose. If you hate one of our choices, you can still come back the next episode, and there'll be a new person.
Well, then you chose a bad Elisabeth, if that happens.
Right.
Exactly. Like, we like her too much. And the other thing, too, is like, as we said, we'd hope to have guests down the road, down the line who are Elisabeths, and also maybe people like my friend Ed Rendell could talk about Betsy Ross.
Oh, yeah. Was Betsy an Elisabeth?
She was an Elisabeth, and also probably, and was apparently a bit of a slut, and didn't make that flag. But she slept with the people that carried it.
Wow, fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
that's the kind of juicy
people need to know.
Historical stuff. Yeah,
need to know.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've heard Betsy Ross is a slut.
I know.
That's a new one.
That's new. It's like Joe Rogan. We're making
maybe let's just say I don't think she turned down a cocktail.
And she's dead, so she can't sue us. So
I don't think she can. And by the time they got all their shit together, I'll be dead too. So, and if you have that time to go after me, for God bless you then.
Yeah, deny.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Will. This was fun. Yeah.